What if the legends we thought we knew were wrapped in mysteries far deeper than fame itself? Some fans insist that the story didn't end when Michael Jackson took his final bow, that what the world saw afterward was part myth, part illusion, a symbol too powerful to ever truly disappear. Others whisper that Aretha Franklin's unmatched voice felt too divine to belong to just one woman, sparking eerie theories of hidden understudies and silent guardians of her legacy. And Prince, the eternal rule-breaker, inspired rumors so strange that fans wondered whether his sudden reinventions hinted at something or someone behind the curtain. These ideas aren't facts. They are the wild, electrifying folklore born from artists whose brilliance felt almost supernatural. But one thing is certain: when legends shine this brightly, fans will always search for answers in the shadows. Today we dive into 10 Black R&B legends, eternal icons, might have been cloned by the Illuminati. Before we begin, hit like and subscribe, because what you're about to hear will change the way you look at musical greatness forever. Number 1. Whitney Houston. The trembling note that echoed through a London arena froze thousands in place. Whitney Houston was standing under the brilliant stage lights, hair glowing, posture regal, the legendary diva the world believed it knew. But for longtime fans who had followed her since Greatest Love of All and I Will Always Love You, something felt unmistakably. "That wasn't my Whitney," one heartbroken fan whispered after the show, tears streaming. And from that single moment of disbelief, a stunning theory erupted that the woman singing on stage that night wasn't the real Whitney Houston at all, but a carefully manufactured clone designed to preserve the illusion of an untouchable superstar. People remembered the confusion that washed through the crowd. The once soaring, effortless voice now sounded worn, hoarse, breathy, fragile. Even the way she moved, the way she lifted her hands, the way she gazed at the audience, it all seemed subtly foreign. Online forums exploded. Side-by-side comparisons flooded the internet. Whitney in her radiant prime versus the later, thinner figure who appeared in public with gestures that fans insisted didn't belong to her. From these comparisons, the Whitney clone theory caught fire. Conspiracy enthusiasts quickly connected the rumor to the Illuminati. They argued that a star of Whitney's magnitude was too powerful, too influential to ever truly step away. Major contracts, global tours, and record label empires were at stake. So, they claimed, a clone could perform when the real Whitney was too exhausted to continue. Some stories went even further. Whispers circulated that two Whitneys had once been seen backstage, one vibrant and smiling, the other pale and silent as she slipped into a private room. Mainstream media dismissed all of this as fantasy. Experts explained the vocal decline as the natural result of stress, health struggles, and the punishing demands of fame. But to devoted fans, logic didn't matter. What mattered was the feeling, the haunting sense that something about her had changed in a way no headline could explain. The high notes that once electrified the world now felt like echoes of memories forced back to life. Hope faded. Rumors grew in the empty space where perfection used to be. One small moment added fuel to the fire. In a brief interview, Whitney softly muttered, "They want me to keep being perfect, but I'm tired." To extreme believers, this was a hidden confession, a coded cry for help. They insisted powerful forces replaced her with a flawless replica to keep the industry running without pause. In truth, the Whitney clone rumor is most likely just that, a rumor born from grief, nostalgia, and the world's inability to accept that even icons change. Yet that same grief created an irresistible legend, a black superstar whose brilliance invited both adoration and suspicion, and whose name became tied not only to timeless songs, but also to one of music's most sensational mysteries. Number 2. Michael Jackson. To this day, a single question still sparks heated debate. Did Michael Jackson, the king of pop, of R&B, of an entire era, truly vanish from the spotlight in 2009? It sounds impossible, yet the rift between what fans felt and what the media declared opened the door to one of the eeriest rumors in music history. Many insist Michael never actually disappeared. What the world witnessed in the years that followed, fleeting cameos, silhouettes backstage, figures who looked like him but not quite, wasn't the real Michael Jackson. They say it was a clone, crafted to keep the legacy alive, to ensure the myth of Michael Jackson never dimmed. One chilling account claimed someone saw a completely different Michael behind the scenes at a memorial event. He moved too lightly, as though untouched by trauma. His face seemed unfamiliar. His eyes carried a foreign expression. That single testimony spread like wildfire across forums, fueling the belief that the Illuminati, the secretive group long rumored to control the entertainment world, had stepped in. According to conspiracy theorists, they engineered a flawless replica to maintain their most valuable star. Fans pored over images. Tiny details that once went unnoticed suddenly became evidence: a missing scar on the nose, a slightly different way of lifting the hands, a walk that appeared rehearsed, almost mechanical. Michael himself fanned the flames. Throughout his videos and lyrics, he dropped cryptic symbols, the all-seeing eye, triangular motifs, even overt references to duplication in Leave Me Alone. Some saw it as pure artistry. Others believed he was warning the world, hinting that he was trapped in a cycle of manipulation, replaced long before the public realized it. For devoted followers, heartbreak grew. They remembered the Michael of Thriller, vibrant, expressive, overflowing with emotion. Yet later appearances sometimes felt hollow, as if the body was present but the soul was missing. In the world of black music legends, the climb to greatness is steep, and once they reach the summit, society begins to question whether the legend before them is even real or a polished shadow crafted for control. In 2002, Michael stood before cameras, voice trembling yet firm, confessing that powerful forces were manipulating his artistry and image. For some, that moment became a prophecy. So when the world heard the news in 2009, a quiet question lingered: did Michael Jackson truly die, or did he simply escape? And did a manufactured version of him continue the performance? Skeptics argue it was age, surgery, and camera angles. But the clone theory refuses to fade, because for millions, Michael Jackson could not have left this world in any ordinary way. They cling to a darker, more mysterious possibility that the king still walks among us, just not in the form we once knew. And so the legend grows. The music remains immortal. And with every beat, the haunting rumor of a living replica echoes beside it, comforting, chilling, and unforgettable. Number 3, Aretha Franklin. One unforgettable night at Radio City Music Hall, the audience buzzed with electric excitement. They had come to witness one woman, the queen of us, the unrivaled queen of soul, Aretha Franklin. When the lights rose, she stepped out in a glittering gown, moving with a majesty that made the entire room exhale at once. But the moment her first notes floated into the air, an eerie stillness washed over the hall. The voice was still deep, still resonant, yet it lacked the familiar warmth that once softened even the hardest hearts. Then it happened. A longtime fan leapt from his seat and cried out, "That's Sips, not my Aretha." His voice echoed across the hall, splitting the atmosphere in two. From that instant, a troubling whisper began circulating. The woman singing before them wasn't Aretha Franklin at all, but a carefully crafted clone. Rumors intensified after another performance where Aretha appeared with tightly curled hair and an unusual coldness in her eyes. Her steps seemed mechanical, her way of holding the microphone strangely rigid. To fans who had listened to every emotional tremble in respect, something felt undeniably altered. They rushed online to compare footage from her golden era with her later years. In the 70s, a single breath from Aretha felt like a prayer. But in newer videos, there were fleeting moments when the emotion seemed rehearsed, not lived. From these comparisons, people coined a chilling nickname, the Shadow Diva, a stand-in supposedly replacing the true queen. The conspiracy spread rapidly. Believers argued that no record label or powerful entertainment figure would allow a monumental icon like Aretha to disappear naturally. She was a cultural pillar, a guaranteed moneymaker, a living legend whose presence alone sold out arenas. According to the theory, at least two versions of Aretha existed, one performing, one attending events, and the real Aretha living quietly far from the public eye. More incidents added fuel to the story. During a show in Atlantic City, she briefly forgot the lyrics to a song she had mastered for decades. Some swore the smile she flashed afterwards didn't look like hers, more like the forced grin of an actress trying to cover a mistake. Then there was the change in her vocal range. Critics called it aging, but conspiracy believers insisted it sounded like someone attempting to imitate Aretha's voice, mastering the notes but failing to capture the soul. Of course, many pushed back. They pointed out that Aretha dedicated her entire life to performing, and years of strain, health struggles, and pressure would naturally alter anyone's voice and presence. But emotion often overpowers logic. When a beloved icon shifts too dramatically, people instinctively search for a supernatural explanation, and in the collective imagination, the idea of a clone feels both thrilling and terrifying, the perfect way to explain the unexplainable. True or not, the myth of the Shadow Diva adds another layer to Aretha Franklin's already monumental legacy. She remains the woman who demanded respect before the world, the black icon who shattered barriers, yet she also stands at the center of a haunting rumor, that the queen the world saw in her final years was not the original, but a carefully preserved substitute. And it is that rumor that ensures Aretha will forever live not just as a legend, but as an unsolved mystery in the hearts of her fans. Number 4. Marvin Gaye. The audience at an Oakland concert froze in shock when Marvin Gaye stepped onto the stage with vacant, distant eyes. Dressed in a crisp white suit, impossibly slim, wearing a strained smile, he looked like Marvin, but didn't feel like him. And when he began to sing, the magic was gone. The velvet warmth of Let's Get It On, the trademark soul that once melted crowds, had vanished. In its place was a hollow echo. That night, a whisper swept through the venue. "This isn't Marvin Gaye. It's an imposter, a double sent to fool us." From that moment, rumors spiraled wildly. Fans sensed a strange separation between the legend they had worshipped for years and the quiet shadow standing under the spotlight. One story claimed that after a Detroit performance, a devoted listener managed to slip backstage and meet Marvin. But the man he encountered, though physically similar, lacked Marvin's spirit entirely. He avoided eye contact, nodded stiffly, and disappeared behind a door, the fan later recounted. Oddly enough, newspapers reported Marvin attending a private party in Los Angeles that same evening, while someone else had been performing live in Detroit. So who had the crowd actually listened to? The world of soul music has always been shrouded in tales of brilliant black artists caught between creativity and the suffocating pressures of the industry. And Marvin, with his striking looks and heartbreakingly rich voice, stood in the center of that storm. Some believers argue that record executives, hungry for profit, would never allow a star of Marvin's magnitude to rest, even if he was exhausted, struggling, or craving solitude. A body double, to them, was the perfect business tactic. The show continued, fans stayed satisfied, and the real Marvin could remain hidden, safely shielded from headlines and cameras. What gave the rumor even more momentum were the noticeable changes in performance style. The Marvin Gaye the world adored closed his eyes when he sang, letting his entire body sway with emotion as though the music was flowing through his bloodstream. But during that mysterious period, the man on stage seemed rigid, disconnected, singing with precision but without passion, as if reading from a teleprompter. Another iconic moment that fueled suspicion happened at a Chicago concert. A frustrated fan shouted, "Bring back the real Marvin," the crowd murmured in agreement, and that cry quickly became the anthem of the conspiracy. Soon, backstage photos began circulating online. In one image, Marvin appeared fuller, with softly curled hair. In another, he was noticeably thinner, with a strangely high forehead. Aging? Lighting? Camera distortion? Possibly. But those small inconsistencies became fuel for a theory people desperately wanted to believe. Still, the simplest explanation is also the least sensational. Marvin Gaye, known for his elusiveness and love of privacy, may have occasionally sent a stand-in to distract journalists or protect himself from constant attention. Many stars have done the same. But logic rarely competes with fantasy. Fans yearned for a bigger, darker story, one involving hidden powers, secrecy, and a legend trapped within an invisible system. In that version of events, Marvin was not just a singer, but a figure manipulated from the shadows, replaced on stage whenever necessary to keep the myth alive. And because of those whispers, Marvin Gaye's legacy carries not only timeless songs, but one of soul music's most haunting substitution mysteries, a tale that refuses to fade. Number 5. Prince. The most shocking moment in Prince's mythos didn't unfold under the glittering concert lights. It happened backstage, where several crew members whispered they had seen the impossible, two princes appearing at the same time. A former dancer recalled a chilling incident during a private show. The crew was preparing for an encore when Prince stepped into the hallway, his purple outfit glowing under the dim backstage bulbs. Seconds later, another figure, identical in height, build, and wearing the exact same vibrant costume, drifted past in the opposite direction. No one dared comment. But from that night onward, the rumor spread like a forbidden secret. Prince had a clone. Prince was never an artist who stayed still. His constant reinvention confused even his most loyal fans. One moment he was a slim, mysterious soul musician, the next a sensual figure draped in velvet and lace, and later an untouchable being represented only by the symbol, refusing even to use his own name. These transformations added fuel to the speculation. People insisted no single human being could evolve so rapidly, so drastically, so completely, unless multiple princes were taking turns appearing in public. Then there were the disappearances. Prince would vanish for months or even years, only to return with a face slightly altered, a voice tinged with new colors, or a fashion style that looked like the creation of another universe. This led extreme fans to create their own theory. There was Prince A, the original, and Prince B, a meticulously crafted double used to maintain the mystique. A forced smile here, a distant stare in an interview there, these became evidence of a hidden switch. His use of cryptic symbols only intensified the fire. Prince replaced letters with signs, circles, arrows, hybrid glyphs, stamped across album covers and music videos. Some fans couldn't decipher the meanings, but were convinced they hinted at a deeper truth. Conspiracy theorists argued the symbols were coded messages, Prince's way of signaling that another version of him existed. Others believed he was subtly crying out, "I am not the one you think I am." One of the most unforgettable incidents happened in London. Prince descended into the crowd, brushing hands with fans. But just moments later from backstage, another figure dressed exactly like him emerged and stepped into the spotlight. Dozens of fans swore they saw two princes at once. Organizers quickly brushed it off, claiming it was simply a dancer wearing a matching costume. But those who lived that moment remember it vividly, a memory they refused to surrender. Of course, Prince was a master illusionist. He thrived on misdirection, intricate staging, and surprising the audience. It's entirely possible that the so-called clone was nothing more than clever theatrics designed to deepen his mystique. Yet when all these incidents are placed together, a larger, more unsettling picture forms. Prince as a shape-shifting force, sometimes tangible, sometimes ethereal, a man who might not have existed as a single unified identity. Ultimately, the contradiction between the real genius and the elusive phantom is what makes Prince one of the most fascinating figures in modern music. The clone rumor may well be a fantasy, but it exposes a profound truth. No matter how brilliantly he performed, audiences always felt there was a part of Prince they could never reach. They saw masks, personas, shadows, never the core. And that lingering sense of mystery is enough to keep the legend of two princes alive for generations to come. Number 6. Stevie Wonder. There was a moment so uncanny, so impossible, that it froze an entire audience in disbelief. Stevie Wonder, the man the world believed had lived a lifetime without sight, suddenly extended his hand and caught a falling microphone with perfect precision. No hesitation, no fumbling. Just a clean, instinctive movement. That clip later swept across social media like wildfire, reigniting a rumor that had lingered in the shadows for years. Was the man on stage truly Stevie Wonder? Were there two Stevie Wonders? One, the blind musical prophet the world adored, and another, an alternate version whose eyes still worked. These whispers didn't appear out of thin air. Within the music industry, an underground story circulated at certain late career events. Stevie himself never went on stage. Instead, another man, with a voice eerily similar, the same smooth gait, and identical sunglasses, performed in his place. Fans only began to grow suspicious when subtle differences emerged. His bow to the audience felt unfamiliar. His mic hand switched unexpectedly. His between-song jokes didn't sound like the Stevie they knew. The rumor multiplied when Jamie Foxx, during a talk show, laughed and said, "Man, Stevie can see, trust me." What seemed like a harmless joke became gasoline poured on a smoldering fire. If Stevie could actually see, how long had he hidden it? And if the person on stage wasn't Stevie, then who was he? A stand-in, a double, or a carefully engineered substitute meant to protect the legacy of one of the greatest black artists ever? Fueling the conspiracy further was Stevie's extraordinary network of influence. He worked with presidents, industry titans, and executives with unimaginable power. To believers, replacing Stevie, even for just a handful of events, was entirely feasible. Some even claimed that at a private awards ceremony, Stevie version B appeared noticeably taller and moved with surprising agility, enough to make sharp-eyed attendees sense something wasn't right. Of course, the more grounded explanation is simpler. In rare situations, Stevie may have used a double due to health concerns, exhaustion, or logistical conflicts. But fans rarely accept simple answers, not when they're dealing with a legend. When an icon changes, people search for bigger stories, deeper conspiracies, more dramatic truths. And so, rumors of a sighted clone or two coexisting Stevie Wonders refuse to fade, surviving year after year like an unsolved equation. True or not, these theories have wrapped Stevie Wonder in a new layer of mystique. He is no longer seen solely as the blind musical genius who conquered the world, but also as the center of a swirling mystery that no one has ever fully unraveled. Perhaps he was merely an exhausted artist craving privacy after decades spent in relentless spotlight. Or perhaps, as many firmly believe, the Motown stage once held two different Stevie Wonders, one the authentic legend and the other a carefully shaped shadow designed to protect a musical empire too enormous, too powerful, too precious to risk losing. Number 7. Anita Baker. Anita Baker, the velvet-voiced powerhouse who defined the sound of the late 80s and early 90s, was not immune to the strange theories that often cling to legends. Her deep devotion to privacy, her long disappearances from the spotlight, and her refusal to let the world see more than what she offered on stage created the perfect environment for a startling rumor. During her long absences, someone else had quietly stepped in to perform in her place. Fans who attended her concerts insisted they noticed subtle inconsistencies. Some nights, her voice carried a slightly different texture. The tone was still lush, still unmistakably Anita. But the vibrato that once fluttered with raw emotion felt muted. The soul in her delivery, the trademark depth that made her ballads unforgettable, seemed to flicker. A few even recalled moments during Sweet Love when the usual trembling intensity, the kind that made audiences cry, was missing entirely. Instead, they heard a voice that sounded controlled, polished, but strangely mechanical, as if the emotion had been drained from it. For devoted listeners, even the smallest deviation was enough to spark suspicion. Behind the scenes, Anita's mysterious nature only amplified the theory. She vanished for years at a time, choosing quiet living over fame, but when she returned, some performances carried subtle differences that fans struggled to explain. From that confusion, the whisper of a shadow clone was born, a myth that suggested someone else had briefly taken her place to keep the legend alive. Of course, the real explanation is far simpler: time, health, nerves, and the heavy pressure of returning after a long hiatus. But Anita's aura, elegant, private, unknowable, made her the perfect figure for such speculation. A living legend wrapped in mystery, inspiring audiences to imagine a hidden double stepping out of the darkness to keep her timeless voice burning. Number 8. Luther Vandross. One unforgettable night in Las Vegas, the audience waited anxiously for the man whose voice could make the world tremble, Luther Vandross. But the moment he stepped into the spotlight, a ripple of unease swept through the crowd. The voice was still silky, still dripping with that honey-sweet charm, yet something vital was missing. The warmth, the emotional heat that once made millions cry, flickered like a dying flame. Longtime fans exchanged stunned glances. "That's not the Luther we know," some whispered. In that instant, one of the most sensational rumors of his career began to take shape. The idea that the real Luther had retreated into the shadows, and the man standing on stage was a carefully arranged clone designed to preserve an illusion of perfection. The rumor didn't fade, it intensified. After Luther's health struggles in the late 90s, his performance schedule dropped dramatically. Yet strangely, a handful of shows still went forward, and for many fans, the Luther they saw then simply wasn't the same. The high notes still floated beautifully, but the lower range, the very soul of his romantic ballads, sounded hollow, lacking the depth that once wrapped listeners like velvet. Fans described him as a singing silhouette, a shadow performing in place of the man who once poured raw emotion into every lyric. What made the rumor even more compelling were Luther's deep ties to the music industry. He worked under massive contracts and collaborated with producers powerful enough to shape entire careers. With such influence surrounding him, the clone theory began to feel strangely plausible to some. If Luther couldn't maintain demanding performances due to health, then placing a substitute on stage would be the most efficient way to keep his brand alive. Another detail circulated fiercely within the core fanbase. During a European performance, Luther forgot the lyrics to one of his signature songs, a song he had performed flawlessly for decades. The slip felt unnatural. The real Luther was renowned for his impeccable memory and poised stage presence. But that night, he seemed hesitant, uncomfortable, even unfamiliar with the music that defined him. Some fans also pointed out subtle changes: a stiffer posture, a more rigid walk, shoulders lacking the graceful flow they had always admired. Of course, the more grounded explanation still stands. Luther's declining health could have altered his voice. Age could have affected his movement. His recovery could have made performances less effortless. But for fans raised on the velvet voice, every minor shift became a doorway to speculation. And so, the silent clone theory drifted through fan forums, lingering like a faint ghost within Luther Vandross's majestic legacy. People often say the greater the artist, the harder it is to silence the myths that form around them. Luther, whose voice shaped an entire generation, was no exception. His slightly altered presence on stage, paired with the enormity of his reputation, created fertile ground for the clone rumor to flourish. Perhaps it is nothing more than collective imagination chasing shadows. But perhaps, as some whisper, Luther really did withdraw quietly, leaving another figure to keep the flame alive for audiences who weren't ready to let go. And that mystery, unsolved, unspoken, glowing faintly like an ember, makes listeners wonder every time Dance with My Father plays. Is that truly the one and only voice of Luther Vandross? Number 9. Alicia Keys. People still recall the unforgettable sight of Alicia Keys seated gracefully at her piano, eyes closed, her smoky, warm voice pouring out like a healing prayer. Yet, that very image, so flawless, so intimate, sparked a series of strange and persistent rumors. On social media, 2 photos of Alicia began circulating, both allegedly taken on the same day, but showing striking differences. In one, she appeared with a fuller face and sleek, straight hair. In the other, she looked noticeably slimmer, her curls voluminous and wild, her eyes shining with an expression that felt unfamiliar. Hardcore fan groups immediately declared, "That isn't Set Alicia, that Set's another version of her." The rumor grew louder when Alicia began expanding her international career. She appeared at global events, sometimes in different countries within impossibly short time frames. A fan insisted they saw her performing in Europe, yet only hours later, another image appeared showing Alicia at a charity gala in the US. Were the dates simply mislabeled? Was it just media confusion? Perhaps, but to believers of the secret twin theory, it was the perfect piece that completed the puzzle. Alicia's close partnerships with industry titans like Jay-Z, Beyoncé, and other highly scrutinized figures added more spark to the conspiracy. These stars were already surrounded by myths about hidden power networks. So when Alicia's name entered the mix, the clone rumors spread even faster. Some fans even claimed her vocals in certain live performances lacked her signature fire, fueling the suspicion that a stand-in, a clone engineered to preserve her brand, was stepping in. Of course, the rational explanations remain simple. Alicia frequently changes her hairstyle. Travel fatigue can alter her appearance. Lighting, angles, and video compression can trick the eye. And emotional energy naturally shifts from performance to performance. But once a rumor takes root, it grows with a life of its own. And so, the legend of Alicia Keys' illuminated double continues to circulate. A reminder that even in the era of high-definition cameras and constant connectivity, no artist, not even Alicia, is immune to the myth of mysterious replicas lurking behind the spotlight. Number 10. Beyoncé. Beyoncé, the legendary Queen Bey, is far more than a performer. She is a cultural force, a symbol, a global phenomenon. Yet the brighter the spotlight, the stranger the shadows it casts. Throughout her career, backstage clips have repeatedly stirred controversy. In one angle, Beyoncé's face appeared sharp and sculpted. Only seconds later, another camera captured a softer, almost unfamiliar version of her features. Hardcore fans sounded the alarm immediately. That isn't Set Beyoncé. That's Set someone else. Speculation intensified when she was seen attending multiple high-profile events that seemed to overlap in time. Online forums dissected every detail, her stride, the way she lifted her hands, even her smile. Some insisted these small inconsistencies proved what they had long believed. The presence of 2 Beyoncés, the real superstar, and a carefully crafted double, meant to manage her impossible schedule. The mystery deepened each time she stepped onto stages filled with symbolic imagery. Eyes, triangles, and geometric shapes often linked to theories about secret elite powers. To a certain group of believers, these visuals were not artistic choices but coded hints pointing to an alternate version of Beyoncé performing behind the scenes. Of course, a far simpler explanation exists. Beyoncé is famously meticulous, constantly reinventing her look, vocal style, and stagecraft. Her transformations reflect evolution, not deception. Lighting, makeup, and high-definition lenses can dramatically shift her appearance, and varying energy from show to show is natural for any artist, especially one at her level. But when a figure reaches Beyoncé's magnitude, even subtle changes can explode into myths. For millions who watch her every move, the idea of a clone becomes a way to rationalize a superstar who seems to operate beyond human limits. And so, Beyoncé, the woman who redefined R&B, pop, and performance culture, remains suspended between reality and illusion, walking through a world where every slight shift gives birth to another rumor, and the clone theory continues to echo behind her like a lingering shadow. And in the end, whether the rumors of clones are pure fantasy or symbolic truths, one thing remains: the legends we admire were never just entertainers to us, they were larger than life. Their voices carried emotions so powerful, so unforgettable, that fans searched for explanations beyond reality itself. Maybe the clones exist only in our imaginations, but the longing behind those whispers reveals how deeply we wish our icons could stay with us forever. Now we want to hear from you. Which artist do you think sparked the wildest clone rumors? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your insight might appear in a future video. If this story intrigued you, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss another deep dive into music's untold mysteries. Thank you for watching till the very end. Check out the videos on your screen for more hidden truths and unforgettable stories. See you in the next one.